underground.
Hello, my name's Matt Tolfrey from Leftroom Records. I'm currently up in Nottingham at the moment, just about to go in the studio for a whole week with my studio partner Inzet. I actually grew up in the Middle East when I was younger, from the age of 3 till 16, and I always used to be in bands when I was a kid. I used to play the bass guitar, and it wasn't actually until my brother came out to Bahrain and actually introduced me to dance music, these old Sasha Magic tapes, that actually got me into house music. From there, it was kind of non-stop for me. That's all I really wanted to do. And then I moved back to the UK, saved up for some 1210s, got myself a little gig in a bar in town, and then I was hooked, basically. I always wanted to start a label. I just didn't know what time or when it was going to happen, but I was coming to the end of my degree and I was moving into my final year, and I was at a point where I was either going to have to take a whole year out from music, or I came up with this fantastic plan of starting a record label instead of actually finishing my degree, which at the time a lot of people didn't think was a good idea, but I didn't really fancy taking a whole year out from music, stop DJing, stop making music, stop everything, because I thought I've got a bit of a ball rolling, so if I stop it for a year I might just get forgotten. So yeah, I quit my degree in the summer, and then that was 3 years ago, and started my label. People know that if they release a track on a label, it's not to make money, it's to advertise themselves, to then go and get gigs or play live, or to get remix work or stuff like that. Releasing records, you know, isn't the biggest earner in the world anymore, unless you have a big hit. You know, we've had a couple throughout the years, but general, like an average release, it's not like you can't earn a living off it by any means. So, and I think you obviously used to be able to. Used to average like 4,000 or 5,000 vinyl about 10 years ago, but yeah, I dream of doing that nowadays. I always hear people, digitally wise, they're always like, it wasn't good enough to put out on vinyl, so we just put it out digitally. And for me, it's like, if it's not good enough to put out on vinyl, what's the fucking point in putting it out at all? Because then you're just filling up a virtual record shop full of shit. And I think, unfortunately, that is kind of what it's got to. Sometimes not so much about how big the track is, it's about what label it's on. Like, say, for example, if, you know, I put a track out on Leftroom and then they put a track out on they put exactly the same track out on Get Physical. Get Physical would sell 2x, 3x as many copies as I would, but that's just because they're a bigger label. Sometimes it's not so much about the music, if you know what I mean. It's actually about how big your label is, or, you know, how much brand awareness you've got on it, and that's something I'm working on at the moment. But, you know, it's quite hard work to do on your own. From the start, I mean, I was one of these people that went from kind of, I was really into the music, and then I went from kind of being a clubber to being a DJ, if you know what I mean, a little bit. So when I was younger, I used to go out and listen to people like Sasha and Danny Tenaglia and people like that. It wasn't until I moved to Nottingham that I really kind of got into the stuff that I think I'm probably still into now. People like Andy Weatherall and Derek Carter, Craig Richards. Saw Richie Hawtin a couple of times. That was pretty inspiring. They're the kind of guys that I think are still probably now pushing it forward, that inspire me. Obviously Ricardo Villalobos, but he's like next level, so he's insane good. So I don't think anyone will ever touch him until he retires, unfortunately. So I think the thing about Ricardo Villalobos is that he's just totally himself all the time behind the decks, and he's such a nice guy, and he's just like, he just like interacts with the crowd so well, and you just know that, you know, every time he steps on the deck something special is going to happen. He's just got that knack of doing it, because he's never failed to do it for me. Every time he plays he's on fire, and like he just tries different things and does things that other people don't dare or don't even think of. So I think it's just that he's so consistently good. I've never seen him play a bad set, whereas all the other said DJs that I admire, I have heard them play bad sets before. So I think that's the thing. He's just one of those characters, unfortunately, that just is never shit. I think for me, I prefer playing vinyl and CDs to the Serato or the Final Scratch at the moment, just because I have actually tried Final Scratch before, and I just found myself staring at the computer screen instead of actually looking up and seeing what was going on around me on the dance floor or anything like that. I think the fact of having a computer in front of you is a distraction between like the crowd and you. You're actually putting something else in between you both, which is something that really does turn your attention away from what you're doing. Leftroom's pretty much shut down now in terms of artists. I've already got the guys that I'm using kind of at the moment. I've already got Mark Ashkin and Glimpse and Inzek and myself. I'm going to be releasing a couple of bits on there. So, you know, it's not really open to demos at the moment, unfortunately. The only label that is Left Out, which is our label for kind of up and coming producers or people that haven't released anywhere else in the past. Well, personally, I've covered the label, I've covered production, I've covered DJing. The only thing we haven't really done is run our own party, really. So, going to give that a go. I'm working with a couple of other people. Neil Parks, who helps me with the label Left Out. Mark Ashkin's helping out. So we're just going to give that a go and see if we can be promoters as well, and see how that goes.